Woman who was known for her powerful singing voice was shot and killed early Saturday morning. Police say her son pulled the trigger. Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Drew Wilder has more on the murder of LaToya Acree and how her band is honoring her.
Her voice was larger than life. LaToya Acree sang in the band True Soul alongside Caesar Roy.
She had a lot of confidence issues in the beginning. She had lost, 100 pounds. She got a new boyfriend. She was really, really happy. It seemed like things were just turned around for her, and this happens.
The gunshot wound to the chest.
Early Saturday morning, 41-year-old LaToya Acree was shot and killed in the driveway of her Spotsylvania County home. Her son, 21-year-old Elijah Smith, was arrested and charged with her murder. Roy says he just saw her hours earlier and couldn't believe the news.
Obviously, God had a better plan, a bigger concert for her to sing in.
Before she was killed, LaToya and the band were preparing for a big show coming up this Saturday at an event to raise awareness about domestic violence. Now the band will dedicate the show to their late singer, who police say died a victim of domestic violence.
Just after midnight in a quiet Spotsylvania neighborhood, deputies responded to a report that offered few details and no immediate explanation. A woman lay in her driveway, unresponsive, with signs of a recent confrontation only partially visible in the scene. There were no witnesses outside, no public disturbance beforehand, and no clear indication of what had unfolded inside the home minutes earlier. Investigators quickly identified a person of interest, but the circumstances leading to that determination were not immediately disclosed. As officers moved between the residence, the driveway, and nearby locations, the sequence of events suggested a conflict that escalated rapidly and with unexpected force. Records, interviews, and prior incidents would later outline a pattern that had not been widely recognized. What began as a routine call for assistance soon developed into a case that required piecing together movements, decisions, and tensions that had been building long before that night. You're watching Global Crime Venue, where viral fame hides chilling secrets. From TikTok dancers and Instagram couples to rising Facebook personalities, we reveal the dark side of the spotlight. When the perfect posts turn into tragedies, we break down exactly how it all unraveled. These aren't just online stories. They're real cases with real victims. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new case breakdown. In our next episode, we'll dive into another shocking story of love, control, and a hidden danger that no one saw coming. Here's the untold side of what really happened. In the early hours of September 18, 2021, deputies responded to a residence in the Oak Grove subdivision of Spotsylvania County, Virginia, where a 41-year-old woman was found in the driveway with a fatal gunshot wound. The initial call referenced a disturbance inside the home shortly before the shooting. The victim, identified as LaToya Clara Acree, was a mother of four who had recently become the lead vocalist of a Washington, D.C. area soul band while also pursuing higher education and maintaining multiple jobs. The preliminary assessment by law enforcement indicated that the incident resulted from a domestic argument inside the home, and the primary suspect was her 21-year-old son, Elijah D. Smith. With no indication of outside involvement, the case immediately centered on an internal family conflict that escalated to lethal violence. Authorities located the suspect shortly after the incident at a nearby hotel and took him into custody without resistance. The rapid apprehension established the focus of the investigation and allowed officers to begin reconstructing the sequence of events leading to the confrontation. No reports indicated that others were involved, and available information showed that the dispute occurred shortly before the shooting. This placed emphasis on understanding the argument itself, the household environment, and any prior incidents that might explain the escalation. The case also raised questions about the private dynamics within the family. LaToya was balancing responsibilities as a single parent, working professional, student, and emerging performer. Publicly available records describe her as someone pursuing new opportunities and expanding her involvement in music and creative work. These details drew attention to the contrast between her professional momentum and the fatal event that occurred in her home. The circumstances therefore prompted examination of the pressures, conflicts, or unresolved issues that may have existed but were not publicly visible. Because the suspect was her adult son, the incident aligned with a rare category of domestic homicide. This created additional investigative considerations involving family history, stress factors, patterns of conflict, and any possible indicators that could have suggested risk. Public reports referencing prior legal trouble involving the suspect led to further interest in whether previous incidents had contributed to tension inside the household. However, available information does not provide a complete picture of his background, leaving key aspects of the relationship and contributing factors unclear. LaToya Clara Acree was born on November 23, 1979, and grew up in a family environment shaped by her parents, Telia Acree and Milton Carpenter, and her grandparents, Sterling and Clara Acree. Her early life, as reflected in the records available, positioned her within a stable family network that played a foundational role in her development. After completing high school, she pursued vocational and academic training across several fields. She attended Paul Mitchell Hair School, where she earned her cosmetology license, and she later completed a certificate in phlebotomy, broadening her qualifications in health-related services. Her educational path continued with criminal justice coursework at Germanna Community College, and at the time of her death, she was enrolled at Walden University as a social work student, indicating a long-term commitment to expanding her professional capabilities. Her employment history shows a consistent pattern of work across multiple industries. She held positions as a cosmetologist, worked in medical transport services, and served as a pharmacy technician at Walgreens. Reports also indicate that she attempted entrepreneurial work by opening her own beauty shop, demonstrating an interest in business ownership. Cooking was described as an activity she practiced regularly, and it was characterized as a form of personal routine that she found therapeutic. These areas of work and personal interest illustrate her ability to manage multiple responsibilities while continuing to seek new roles and opportunities. In 2019, she expanded her professional pursuits into the creative sector by joining a Washington, D.C. area soul band called True Soul as its lead vocalist. This marked the beginning of a more public artistic career, and it positioned her within a music community that recognized her for her voice and stage presence. Beyond music, she reportedly secured a role in an independent film produced in Washington, showing that she was taking steps toward acting as an additional career path. These activities indicate that she was actively building an artistic identity while continuing to maintain her other work commitments. In her personal life, she was a single mother raising 4 children. Available information describes her as someone who worked to support her family while pursuing education and career advancement. She was also identified as a born-again Christian, and her religious beliefs appear to have played a significant role in her life. Individuals who knew her, including her bandmates, described her as genuine and sociable, noting that she formed connections easily with those she met. These descriptions reflect the impressions of people within her professional and social environments rather than emotional interpretation. At the time of her death, she appeared to be advancing toward an expanded artistic and academic future. She was involved in regular performances with True Soul, participating in filming projects, and progressing in her social work studies. Her band had been preparing a performance intended to raise awareness about domestic violence, which added an additional point of public interest following her death. Her colleagues expressed the view that her career trajectory was positive and that she was making measurable progress in multiple areas. Taken together, the details of her background show that LaToya Acree was engaged in a diverse range of roles as a student, mother, employee, entrepreneur, and performer. She was positioned at a transitional point in her life, with ongoing educational development and expanding creative opportunities. Understanding these aspects of her identity provides necessary context for examining the broader impact of the events that ended her life and the significance of the loss experienced by her family, colleagues, and community. Below is a revised, non-repetitive, 500-word, straightforward, no emotion, complete sentence version of Section 3, written so that nothing restates information already covered in Sections 1 or 2. This version focuses strictly on the relationship dynamics, documented tension, gaps in public information, and factual limits without repeating details about LaToya's background, career, or the crime scene facts. Public information describing the relationship between LaToya Acree and her son, Elijah D. Smith, is limited, but several sources indicate that tension existed between them before the fatal incident. Individuals familiar with the family stated that disagreements occurred at various points, suggesting a pattern of strain that was noticed by those in LaToya's social circle. These accounts portray a relationship in which conflicts were present, but not considered unusual enough to generate external concern. People who interacted with LaToya reported that she did not suggest she felt at risk, and there is no record that she communicated any expectation of violence involving her son. This indicates that whatever conflicts took place inside the household were not broadly known or recognized as indicators of escalating danger. One documented element that contributes to understanding the family dynamics is the record of Elijah's prior legal involvement. Before the shooting, he had been released on bond in connection with an assault and battery charge. Public reports mention this charge but do not provide information regarding the circumstances, the alleged victim, or the nature of the incident. Because of this lack of detail, it is not possible to determine whether the previous charge was linked to a pattern of behavioral instability, interpersonal conflict, or unrelated events. There is also no published indication that this prior legal issue led to intervention, counseling, or any structured oversight that might have influenced conditions within the household. No official information has been released describing the frequency or severity of disagreements between LaToya and Elijah. The absence of police reports documenting earlier domestic incidents suggests that authorities were not previously called to address conflicts between them, or that any such incidents were never reported. Neighbors have not publicly described hearing recurring disturbances, and no available records indicate earlier attempts to seek assistance through legal channels, mental health services, or social programs. This lack of documented history creates a substantial gap in understanding whether the fatal argument reflected a sudden escalation or an ongoing problem that had remained unaddressed. The specific circumstances of the final argument also remain unknown. Authorities have not released statements detailing what initiated the dispute, whether it involved ongoing personal issues, or whether it resulted from an immediate trigger. Without witness accounts or publicly available statements from individuals present during the argument, the progression of events leading up to the shooting cannot be reconstructed beyond the general acknowledgement that a domestic disagreement occurred shortly beforehand. This lack of clarity makes it difficult to assess whether the confrontation stemmed from long-term tension, accumulated stress, behavioral instability, or an isolated conflict. Additionally, there is almost no public information regarding Elijah's upbringing, educational history, social influences, or mental health background. These missing elements prevent a full analysis of whether developmental factors or environmental pressures may have contributed to instability or conflict within the household. Without these details, it is not possible to draw conclusions about the long-term relationship between mother and son beyond the acknowledgement of past strain. It is also unknown whether LaToya or Elijah accessed any support resources designed to address parent-adult-child conflict. No publicly available records indicate that the family engaged with counseling services, crisis intervention programs, or other community-based support systems. The absence of this information leaves unanswered questions about whether opportunities for external assistance existed, whether help was considered, or whether barriers prevented the family from seeking support. Shortly after 12:30 a.m. on September 18, 2021, emergency dispatchers in Spotsylvania County received a report indicating that a shooting had taken place at a residence on Pondoli Drive in the Oak Grove subdivision. The information provided to dispatch did not specify the condition of the victim or the exact circumstances that led to the firearm discharge, only that immediate assistance was required. Deputies were sent to the address, and units arrived within minutes. Upon reaching the scene, they found a woman lying in the driveway with an apparent gunshot wound to the upper body. Medical personnel were requested immediately and began standard life-saving procedures upon arrival, but determined that the injuries were fatal. The layout of the scene indicated that the shooting had occurred moments before the call was made. There were no signs of vandalism, forced entry, or activity suggesting that individuals outside the residence had been involved. Officers conducted a rapid sweep of the surrounding area to determine whether anyone else was injured, armed, or in potential danger. No additional victims were located, and the residence was secured for further examination by investigators. Deputies documented the position of the victim, physical evidence in the driveway, and any relevant items that could establish the trajectory of the confrontation or the path taken by the individual responsible after leaving the property. After stabilizing the scene, deputies began collecting statements from individuals who were present or nearby at the time of the incident. The information gathered identified a single suspect who had left the residence before deputies arrived. Based on these statements and other details obtained during the initial inquiry, officers determined that the suspect had traveled a short distance from the home. A coordinated search was initiated, and units were directed to multiple nearby locations where the suspect could reasonably have gone. A few hours after the shooting, deputies located the suspect at a hotel in the 4 Mile Fork area. Officers approached the location and conducted the arrest without resistance. Following the arrest, the suspect was transported to the Rappahannock Regional Jail for processing. Investigators then began the process of establishing a clear chronology, including the timing of the initial dispute, the discharge of the firearm, the call to emergency services, the suspect's departure, and his arrival at the hotel. While the primary actions taken on the night of the incident were clear, several procedural steps remained ongoing. Crime scene personnel continued documenting evidence at the residence, including the position of the victim, shell casing recovery, examination of the firearm involved, and detailing any physical disturbances inside the home. Investigators also reviewed the timing of the 911 call, the travel history of the suspect between the residence and the hotel, and the absence of any involvement from external individuals. During this same period, Spotsylvania County law enforcement noted that the region had experienced multiple shooting incidents within a relatively short time frame. Officials clarified that the event on Pondoli Drive showed no connection to the other cases and was classified solely as a domestic incident. The completed record of the night's events consists of the initial emergency call, the discovery of the victim, the securing of the residence, the identification of the suspect, the search of the nearby area, the arrest at the hotel, and the transfer of the ongoing investigation to detectives for additional analysis. Following the death of LaToya Clara Acree and the arrest of her son, Elijah D. Smith, the community response developed across multiple groups, including her bandmates, local media, online communities, and her family. Members of her soul band, True Soul, publicly expressed that they were taken by surprise and described the incident as unexpected based on their prior observations of her home life. They stated that they were aware of tension between LaToya and her son but did not believe the situation presented any indication of imminent danger. The band highlighted her contributions as a lead vocalist and noted that she had consistently demonstrated reliability, professionalism, and dedication to the group's work. They also referenced that the band had scheduled an upcoming performance intended to raise awareness about domestic violence, and after her death, that event shifted into a memorial context related to the circumstances of her killing. Local and regional news outlets reported the incident immediately, providing details regarding the shooting, the location, the charges, and the arrest. Media coverage identified LaToya by name, presented available photographs of her, and confirmed that the suspect was her son. Several news outlets emphasized her involvement in the music community, her work background, and her efforts toward advancing her artistic and academic goals. Publications that focus on community issues, including those addressing domestic violence and social justice, reported on the case by noting the connection between the fatal shooting and the awareness work she had been preparing to take part in. These outlets highlighted the relevance of the incident to broader discussions about domestic violence within families, and indicated that the situation involved the specific dynamic of parent-child conflict leading to homicide. Online forums and community commentary responded with a mixture of grief, surprise, and concern regarding domestic instability and unrecognized signs of conflict. Comments documented on public platforms indicated a reaction focused on the suddenness of the event, the involvement of an adult child as the suspect, and the implications for understanding hidden family tensions. These online discussions reflected the community's need to interpret the circumstances through available information, while acknowledging that detailed insights into the relationship dynamics were not publicly documented. LaToya's family faced immediate personal and logistical consequences following her death. As the single mother of 4 children, her absence created significant financial and caregiving challenges for her surviving children. Reports indicated that fundraising efforts were initiated to support funeral arrangements and provide assistance for the children's needs. Public statements made by individuals close to her referenced her positive trajectory prior to her death, including progress in her music career and improvement in her personal circumstances. These statements described her as a person who was actively working toward long-term goals at the time of the incident. Legal proceedings began with Elijah being charged with second-degree murder and use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. Authorities held him without bond at the Rappahannock Regional Jail, and media outlets reported that he had previously been awaiting trial on an assault and battery charge unrelated to the fatal shooting. Public records available in news coverage did not document a final verdict or sentencing outcome at that time, leaving the long-term legal resolution uncertain. The community response, combined with the criminal charges, established the ongoing nature of the case and its relevance to discussions about domestic violence, family conflict, and support systems. And that concludes today's case. But remember, this is just one of countless stories the world has yet to uncover. Here on Global Crime Venue, our mission is to uncover the facts, honor the victims who can no longer speak, and make sure their stories are never erased. If what you heard today made you think, know this, more cases are on the way that will shock you, haunt you, and change the way you look at social media and the world around you. Be sure to subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. New investigations are released regularly, and trust me, you'll want to be here when the next story breaks. Before you leave, share your thoughts in the comments. What stood out to you most in this case? Your voice keeps these stories alive. Until we meet again, stay cautious, stay informed, and never forget, justice starts with truth. Global Crime Venue, uncovering the stories behind the screen.